Following a storied 13-year playing tenure with the Detroit Pistons, Isiah earned enshrinement into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2000, as well as designations in 1996 as one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. He is a 12-time NBA All-Star, the game's MVP in 1984 and 1986, as well as 5-time All-NBA selection. In 1988, the NBA Players elected Isiah to serve as president of the Players Association, where he served through 1994. Isiah was a central figure in leading the Detroit Pistons to back-to-back NBA championships in 1989 and 1990, earning Finals MVP honors in 1990. The Pistons retired his number on February 17, 1996. Prior to his NBA career, Isiah played 2 seasons at Indiana University. Yeah, go ahead. And just today was a very special day for Isiah, as already he's had a full day. As earlier today, that one of his teams was recognized at halftime in Bloomington, the IU-Purdue game, in which he made his way here, but also a very special moment where Coach Bob Knight returned to IU today for the first time in 20 years. He earned Sporting News First Team All-American honors in 1981, the year that he led the Hoosiers to the NCAA championship. He was also a member of the 1980 U.S. Olympic basketball team. Following his retirement from the NBA, Isiah took a front office position as part owner and executive vice president of the Toronto Raptors expansion team. He also served as head coach of the Indiana Pacers, president, general manager, and coach of the New York Knicks. Off the court, he dedicates a large portion of his time to working with youth programs in urban communities, helping to instill confidence, teamwork, and leadership skills in young people. Inspired by his mother's work to improve the lives of disadvantaged women and families in Chicago, Isiah founded the Mary's Court Foundation in her honor to support the health, safety, academic, and personal achievement of Chicago's youth around the country. Isiah credits his mother for instilling in him the importance of education. He finished his college degree at Indiana during the Pistons' off-seasons and received his master's in education from the University of Berkeley in 2013. Born and raised on Chicago's West Side, Isiah is the youngest of 9 children raised by his mother, the late Mary Thomas. His mother's courage and conviction continue to inspire his business and philanthropic work today. He has 2 adult children and currently lives in New York with his wife of 34 years and his college sweetheart, Lynn Kendall Thomas. Isiah, I can't tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to have you here this evening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, will you please join me in welcoming legendary basketball player philanthropist, Isiah Thomas.
Thank you so much. And watching that video, President Brooks just said to me, I don't know how many of you got a chance to see the ceremony today with Coach Knight, but he grabbed the mic and the first thing he said was play defense, right? And so you saw in the clips of me trying to teach somebody how to play defense, but as Coach reminded me of it today, I wasn't that good at it. Anyway, it's an honor to be here. I want to thank the board for making it possible for me to be here tonight. Again, President, you and your wife, for your generosity and just inviting me to speak to a room such as this tonight. Not many times do you have the opportunity to speak to a group of people that have made such a difference in so many people's lives, but really haven't had the opportunity to be thanked properly for that. Because sometimes you end up in rooms like this where People are asking you to make donations, constantly write a check, come through cold weather, leave your kids at home, and you often wonder, why do I do it, and is it worth it? But I can tell all of you who are in this room tonight that it is absolutely worth it, because the man that's standing before you here today, at one point in time, was a child, growing up on the west side of Chicago. And it was people like you in a room like this that wrote a check and donated money to someone that you were never going to see, with the hope that he or she will grow up to be. Well, I was one of those kids that received charity. And I was one of those kids that received the benefit of a room like this by people that I never met that gave me the opportunity. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, 6 brothers, 2 sisters, and the president announced everything that I did while I was in college and while I was in the NBA and before I could afford clothes like this. There was a time, the first 18 years of my life was not like this at all. And I was one of those kids, and my family were one of those families that depended on the charitable donations, the scholarship benefits, through education that gave us hope, that let me see that there could possibly be a light at the end of the tunnel. Not necessarily through basketball, but through education. I didn't always know that I would be an NBA player, and my life would totally change at 18. There were moments and there were days on the west side of Chicago, again, 6 brothers, 2 sisters. My mom and dad are from Vicksburg, Mississippi, and they grew up thinking that they would leave Mississippi and come to Chicago because this is the place where they thought they would be free and also have a chance to send their kids to school. So education was one of the things that was preached in our household day and night. It wasn't basketball, it wasn't football. And I can remember my father and my mother saying to me every single day that, Junior, the way you are going to get out of this situation is you got to hit those books. And I was one of those kids who was saying, yeah, Mom, yeah, Dad, I'm going to hit the books. As soon as they walked away, I was like, I ain't sure. But then I had coaches, and I had mentors, and I had teachers. And I had people who would take the time with me to say, hey, Junior. And I'm calling myself Junior because I'm named after my father. And that's what they called me when I was young before I got to the NBA. I got good advice along the way. I got good coaching along the way. I got good mentoring along the way. I was fortunate enough to listen, but I was also fortunate enough to be involved with people such as yourself in a room like tonight who would take the time, as Cisco or Francisco, if you want to be called Cisco or Francisco tonight. What am I calling you tonight, Cisco? Where you at? Dean of Students, where are you? Chris? Cisco, we good with that? When he picked me up, we talked about, his background in criminal justice, which I got my undergrad degree was in criminal justice. But he also told me the story about how he took the time with these 3 young men. One of them had got into a little trouble, went to a store, and he stole milk, hamburger meat, and bread. He had 2 brothers at home and a mom who at that time was an alcoholic. And if Cisco doesn't show up to have compassion and understanding for that young man who was sitting across from him, who was hungry and had to steal to try to feed his two brothers at home. He didn't steal money. He stole milk, bread, and hamburger meat. And Cisco had enough compassion to say, hey, I think this kid is all right. He doesn't need to go to jail. He doesn't need to be locked up. The example that I just gave with Cisco is the room that we have here tonight. Because all of you have enough compassion in your heart to say, hey, we're going to give these young kids who don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, the check that we write, the $1 million that we're trying to raise is going to change lives tonight. And we're going to give those kids an opportunity. These are kids that you're never going to have the chance to meet. But my job tonight is to make sure that you see that little boy and you see that little girl that you're getting ready to help. Because if it wasn't for a room like this, I wouldn't be standing here tonight. I wouldn't be delivering this speech. We had a beautiful moment down in Indiana today. My college coach, my mentor, not my friend, my coach today, we got a chance to thank him for having the courage to coach us as young men when everyone else would have let us do the wrong thing. Everyone else would have been a friend of ours and said, you don't need to study. You'll be all right. Score 20 points. We won tonight. Forget about that test. You don't have to take it. I'll have someone else take it for you. We were there tonight to say to Coach, thank you for having the courage to stand up to us as young men and make us do the right thing when we all wanted to do the wrong thing. None of us wanted to go to class. We all talked about wanting to graduate, but at the end of the day, if I got a C, that was okay. Nah, Coach didn't play C's. A's and B's, that's what you had to get. None of us liked it. We thought he was mean. We wanted to fight him every day. Okay, every hour. Maybe a couple of us, took a swing when his back was turned. But at the end of the day, that beautiful moment that we had at Assembly Hall this afternoon, it had nothing to do with us winning a basketball championship. It had nothing to do with us being champions. The outpouring of love that you saw that we gave to Coach Knight today was a thank you, and we appreciate you, Coach, again, for making sure that we did right when all of us wanted to do wrong. And it was really that simple. And it took us all the way back to our moms and our dads. As I said, my mom and dad came from Vicksburg, Mississippi. 6 brothers, 2 sisters. 5 of my older brothers strung out on heroin and cocaine. 4 of them are dead now. One of them kicked. The gentleman who came in here today and asked me, how's your older brother Larry doing? And I said to him, Larry is still alive. And Larry is still alive because there were people who cared about him and who didn't give up on him. Just like you're not giving up on these kids, like you're not giving up on these students who truly need your help and support. And one day they will turn around. And right now you look at them and you go, that kid doesn't have a chance. I can't tell you how many teachers, people looked at me and said, you don't have a chance. I can't tell you how many people in our neighborhood counted us out. Census Bureau, I live below the poverty line. I didn't live in poverty, I lived below the poverty line. I was moving every 6 to 8 months, not to get to a better neighborhood, but because we couldn't pay the rent. And back then they used to set your furniture out. But moving from place to place, you want to talk about perseverance, you want to talk about overcoming obstacles. My mom, every single day, got up, went to work, walked to work. No food in the house, no money to pay the bus to get on. And I remember one morning walking with her, and it was snowing and it was cold, and I had holes on the bottom of my shoes. And so she gave me her pantyhose, and I had to put them on and roll them up as socks. And I looked down at her feet as I'm walking, and I'm complaining. My mom had glad plastic trash bags on her feet with rubber bands tied around her ankles, walking me to school. So when you want to talk about perseverance, and you want to say, and you ask me the question, Isiah, how did you overcome? How did you make it out? How did you get out? The most important example in front of me was my mom every single day not giving up, letting me know that there was a way. And I can hear her saying to this day, baby, if you take one step, I'll take 2. And I'll work the wonder for you. Now at that point in time, I had no idea what that meant. I was like, my mama crazy. I don't know what she's talking about. But as I stand here before you today, and I look out at this room, and I've gone totally away from my notes and my prepared speech, because this room is an important room tonight, and it's brought back so many good memories of what people like you do and how different life would have been for me. If it wasn't for the Ciscos, if it wasn't for the mentors, if it wasn't for people like you. The gentleman from Detroit who we're going to hear from later on today, we're going to see his video. Where you at? Where my man at? Where in Detroit? Stand up. That's your mama with you, right? From Detroit. You thank her. Because you are what it's really all about. Because one day, you're going to be in 2 places. You're going to either be standing here telling this story to a room like this, or you're going to be sitting in that audience writing a check like this table sitting here. Those are your 2 choices. Now your mom has persevered, and she's gone through some hard times to get you here to this room like this. Now your championship moment is not to blow it. Now I'm not talking about making a basket. I'm not talking about running a touchdown. I'm not talking about being a great athlete, musician, or any of that. You got two choices. You're either going to be telling this story, or you're going to be writing a check for somebody else. Those are your only two choices. Don't screw it up. So again, what makes a night like this so important? Because of a room like this, I got a chance to be at the Martin Luther King Boys and Girls Club. I played basketball. And rooms like this allowed us to travel and go to other cities, other part of Chicago, to meet different people outside of my 3 to 4 block radius that I was only allowed to participate in. But my coach at that time, his name was Johnny Gage, and he would come to people like you and he would beg for money. And some people would write $25, some people would write $100 or what have you. And he would come back and we would get to eat. And I didn't have to steal that hamburger and that milk. But the coach would give us something to eat. And then we would go play. And then we would meet my man from Notre Dame who lived in Arlington Heights, Schaumburg, here tonight. Where you at? Stand up, brother. Come out to your neighborhood and play. And then I got a chance to see a new world, other than the 3 or 4 block radius that I lived in. I got a chance to meet new people. I got a chance to go swimming. There were no pools in my neighborhood, but I got a chance to go swimming because I made a friend in another neighborhood. Only because somebody wrote a $100 check that didn't know me, never saw me, didn't meet me, but that $100 helped my coach allow me to go someplace else. Then I got a chance to play for Coach Snyder. I went to Indiana University. I left the west side of Chicago, went to Bloomington, Indiana. And I'll never forget, when my mom met Coach Knight, she liked him. Me and my brothers, we didn't like Coach Knight. I was heavily recruited. People came to my house, they offered me money, they offered the family money. Now, we had a jug of water in the refrigerator, just a jug. We had no lights, so people had to visit us in the daytime. And I remember Coach Knight coming to the house after several other recruiters had come to the house, and they offered us money, they offered us cars, so forth and so on. And this one recruiter came to the house, opened up the briefcase and said, "There's $50,000 in here, Mrs. Thomas, for you and your family to move out." Me and my brothers were high-fiving, clapping, yeah. And you know how when you're real happy and you turn around and you look and there's that one person in the room that's not smiling? But that was my mom. So we quickly sat down. And I'll never forget, my mom walked over to the briefcase. Now, I don't know if there was $50,000 in it or not, because we had never seen anything over than $10. So he could have been lying saying that it was 50 in it, but it looked like a lot to me. I remember my mom walking over to the briefcase, closed it, and looked the gentleman straight in the eyes and said, "My son is not for sale." Now, me and my brothers are looking at each other because we're saying, we kind of for sale. My mom, have you looked in the refrigerator? Like, there's nothing in there. There's a jug of water, and it's not sugar water, it's just water. And we got nothing. My mom kindly escorted the gentleman out of the house. And I didn't understand that lesson until I graduated from Indiana University. Because when Coach Knight came to visit, Coach Knight said, this is me sitting here. This is my mom and my sister sitting here. And my dad was on his way. Coach Knight turned his back to me. He said, Mrs. Thomas, I want to talk to you about your son. Now, I'm in the background like, he said, I'm offering your son 3 things, and I'm offering you 3 things. The 3 things that I'm offering you is to make sure that A, he's going to be a gentleman. B, I'll teach him everything that I know about basketball. And C, he'll graduate from college. Now, mind you, the $50,000 guy, he had just left the house a couple of days ago. So my brothers and I are like, we're not going to Indiana. They're not offering us anything, right? Fast forward, my mom has a press conference. You know how kids have their press conference today and they say, hey, I've decided that I'm going to go to X college, right? Not Tennessee. My mom has a press conference. I'm sitting next to her. She said, my son has made up his mind. I'm sitting right here. My son has decided that he's going to Indiana University to play for Coach Knight. Now, my mom says it with a big smile, and here's me. End up going to Indiana University, won a championship there. During the time that I was playing there, I will tell you this, I didn't like every day. I did not like every day. And as Coach Knight said to us today, he asked us all, did you win? Yeah, we won. But Coach, we didn't like, no, that's not what I asked you, son. Did you win? Yes, Coach, we won. Did you graduate from college? Yes, Coach, graduated from college. Isiah, I am so proud of you because you really could have screwed your life up. Coach, I didn't screw it up. But you did a good job. That was it. You got the pat on the back, you got the handshake, and you said, good job. That's all my mom wanted as I stand in front of you today. Then I went on and I played for the Detroit Pistons, won back-to-back championships there, played for another Hall of Fame coach, Chuck Daly. Went back to school because then I was like, all right, well, I guess school is all right. Guess I can learn something. The interesting thing about going back to school this time, I went to UC Berkeley, got a master's in education, but it was so different sitting in the classroom with life experience. Because I found myself looking at the professors, and you graduated what, 2020 from IU? Yes, 2020 IU. When you graduate, if you go back to school and you're looking at that secondary degree, master's or PhD or what have you, you're not going to be as intimidated by the professors as you once were. So when I went back to school with life experience, I was able to really raise my hand in class and go, nah, I'm not sure if that's right. But I was able to debate, and I had the vocabulary to debate with. But I remember when I was back in school, I didn't have that courage to really challenge the professor. But my mom and Coach Knight, my dad, and they all, remember when we was growing up, there's no such thing as a dumb question? and you always look for the curious mind? Well, I found that when I went back to school to get my master's, that I was much more curious about education. And I wanted to know, and I wanted to find out. And that's what you're going to find. So all these stories that I'm telling you here tonight, it really happens, as Hamilton says, this is the room where it happens. The checks that you write, the $1 million+ that we're going to raise, Brooks, I passed $1 million, I'm on the plus now. The $1 million+ that we're going to raise here tonight, there may be some kid that you're going to help where he or she can literally grow up and change the world. And you may not ever know it. But he or she may stand up in a room like this tonight and let everybody know that if it wasn't for the charity, the compassion, and the giving of a room like this, that person who has a chance to change the world wouldn't be standing here. One last story and then I'll let you go. So I went to Catholic school all my life. Went to all-boy Catholic school, grade school, high school. First time I actually had females in the classroom was in Soch 101 at Indiana University. Being a good Catholic boy, I walked to the front of the class, Soch, sat down, and I'll never forget, I'm sitting in class. Early I got there, of course, because Coach Knight had scared everybody, like, you be there first, class starts at 10 o'clock, you gotta be there at 9:50, and I want you in front of the class. I will have someone there watching. I don't know if someone was there watching or not, but I was in the front of the class. Mind you, I'd never been in the class with girls. And this girl came and sat right next to me. And I was like, hey, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Like, what? And then it hit me. My mom used to make us pray. We got a situation over here at the table. Is everything all right? Do we need to? We good? Okay. So my mom used to make us pray, and every single night, as I said, I'll leave you with this. Every single night, you had to say your prayers, and you ask, I pray for such and such, I pray for such and such, I pray. And at the end of the prayer, before you get ready to go to bed, my mom would say this, now baby, don't you forget now, God is a woman. So I want all of you to remember in this room tonight what my mama said, who's in heaven right now. God is a woman because the man, she used to say, can't create. The woman is the only one that can create and bring life to this earth. And baby, don't you ever forget that. And I said, yes, Mom. And by the way, my dad never said anything, so I just assumed that my mom was right. So tonight while we're here, let's make it happen for the born, the ones who have been created, who haven't had a chance to experience the generosity that I've been fortunate enough to experience in my life that totally changed my life and gave me an opportunity to be here in front of you tonight. Let's give some other kids and people a chance tonight. And to the gentleman who's walking out, if we can all just take 5 seconds and say a prayer silently to yourself. Thank you for this evening. I look forward to mingling with you and have a good time.